In this episode, one of the Philosophy English book summary, we will discuss the content of the 1999 release Think book written by author Simon Blackburn. The full title of the book is Think, A Compelling Introduction to Philosophy. Genre, Personal Development, Philosophy, Education. Introduction, Think hook article, Ever feel lost in life's big questions? Think is your guide to finding answers. This book dives into philosophy's deep waters, but don't worry, it's not as scary as it sounds. Want to know how we gain knowledge? Curious about the nature of truth? Wondering if free will is real? Think tackles these head scratchers and more. But here's the cool part. It's not just for brainy types. The book breaks down complex ideas into bite-sized pieces. You'll explore mind-bending concepts without getting a headache. By reading Think, you'll gain tools to understand the world better. It's like upgrading your mental software. You'll see life through fresh eyes. The best part? This isn't just about filling your head with facts. It's about transforming how you view reality. You might even change how you see yourself. So are you ready to embark on a journey through the greatest minds in history? Think is your ticket to a more enlightened you. Don't miss out on this chance to expand your horizons and maybe even find some answers to life's biggest puzzles. Chapter 1. Think, have you ever thought the world might not be real? Many people have wondered about this. Philosophers have tried to figure out what we can truly know. René Descartes was a French thinker. He questioned if we can trust our senses. He imagined an evil demon pricking us. This demon could make everything we see and feel a lie. Descartes used this idea to show we can't be sure about what we sense. But he found one thing we can't doubt. He said, I think, therefore I am. This means if we're thinking, we must exist. Our senses can fool us, but our mind helps us understand things. For example, wax looks different when it's hot or cold, but we know it's still wax. Descartes said clear ideas from our mind are more trustworthy than what we see. He also thought about what makes us who we are. He said even without a body, we still have a thinking self. This self isn't physical. Descartes believed this perfect self must have a perfect cause. He said this cause is God. Not everyone agrees with Descartes' ideas, but his work started big debates. People still talk about whether we can trust our senses. They wonder about what makes us who we are, and they ask if the world around us is real. Descartes' ideas make us think deeply. They push us to question what we believe. His work helps us try to understand reality better. Chapter 2. Think our minds are complex and fascinating. Scientists and thinkers have long tried to understand how they work. Let's explore some key ideas about the mind. Descartes had an interesting thought. He said our minds and bodies are different things. Our thoughts and feelings are separate from our physical actions. Only we can experience our own thoughts. This idea is called the ghost in the machine. It means our consciousness is like a ghost inside our body. Others can see what we do, but they can't feel what we feel. This raises a big question. How can we know if others think and feel like we do? It's hard to be sure. Some thinkers came up with strange ideas to test this. They imagined zombies who act like humans but don't have thoughts or feelings. They also thought of mutants who feel things in totally different ways. These ideas show how hard it is to know what others experience. We can't be sure if they see the world like we do. Some people try to solve this by saying that if others act like us, they must think like us. But this isn't very strong proof. Leibniz had a different idea. He thought there must be a clear link between what happens in our body and what we think and feel. He compared it to how a circle looks when you shine light on it at an angle. Modern thinkers have new ideas too. Some say we should look at how people act to understand their minds. Others say we should focus on how thoughts and feelings work, not what they're made of. Scientists try to match brain activity to thoughts and feelings. But it's hard to explain why we feel things the way we do. In the end, the mind is still a big mystery. That's why many call consciousness a hard problem to solve. Chapter 3. Think free will. Do we really choose? We often think we make our own choices. But is this true? Many smart people have asked this question. They wondered if our actions are already decided by what happened before. Free will means we can choose from different options. For example, we might pick a mountain vacation instead of a beach trip. We feel proud when we control our actions. We think people should be praised or blamed for their choices. But some say everything is already set. They call this determinism. It means every event happens because of what came before it. If this is true, are we really free? This idea creates a problem. If everything is set, we're not free. But if things happen by chance, we're still not in control. So either way, it seems we're not truly free. Think about a tree that doesn't grow fruit when it's cold. We don't blame the tree. Maybe we shouldn't blame ourselves for things we can't control either. Some people think we have a special part of us that isn't physical. They say this part controls our actions. But this doesn't solve the problem. We still don't know how to be truly free. Others try to mix determinism and free will. They say we're free if our actions come from our own thinking. This view says we can still be responsible for what we do. But it gets tricky when we think about things like brainwashing. If someone else controls our thoughts, we're not free. This makes us wonder how much control we really have. Some people say our freedom is in how we respond to new information. This makes us different from machines. It's why we hold each other responsible. New ideas try to explain how our minds and bodies work together. Some say our thoughts are just our actions. Others say our thoughts are about how our brain works, not what it's made of. Some try to match our thoughts with what happens in our brains. But it's hard to explain why we feel things in our own special way. In the end, we see that our minds are very complex. There's still a lot we don't understand about how we think and feel. Chapter 4. Think Who Are We? Understanding the Self. What makes us who we are? This is a big question many smart people have tried to answer. Let's look at what some thinkers said about this. David Hume, a Scottish thinker, had an interesting idea. He said we can't really see or touch ourselves. When we look inside, we only find thoughts and feelings. There's no clear me that we can point to. Thomas Reid, another Scottish thinker, disagreed. He thought the self was simple and couldn't be divided. He believed we stay the same person even if our body or memories change. John Locke from England had a different view. He said our identity comes from our ongoing awareness. If you remember being the same person yesterday, that makes you the same person today. But this idea has problems. What if someone loses their memory? Are they still the same person? Immanuel Kant, a German thinker, added to these ideas. He said we need a sense of self to make sense of the world. This self isn't something we can see. It's more like a viewpoint that helps us understand things. All these ideas show that who we are isn't as simple as we might think. Our sense of self might change based on different situations. It might not be as stable as we believe. These thoughts make us wonder, are we the same person throughout our lives? Or do we change more than we realize? There's no easy answer, but it's worth thinking about. Understanding who we are is tricky, but exploring these ideas can help us learn more about ourselves and others. Chapter 5. Think How We Think. A Guide to Good Reasoning. Reasoning is about telling good thinking from bad thinking. It starts with formal logic, a big part of philosophy. An argument has two parts, premises and a conclusion. Good arguments have premises that support the conclusion. This is called being valid. Let's look at an example. All humans are mortal is one premise. Socrates is human is another. From these, we can say Socrates is mortal. This is valid reasoning. Philosophers use truth tables to check complex statements. These tables show how words like and, or, and if then work. For instance, if P then Q is only true when both P and Q are true. Quantification is another tool. It helps us talk about amounts. We use words like all and some. For example, all humans are mortal uses quantification. Inductive reasoning is different. It uses specific cases to make general rules. This isn't always certain. For example, seeing the sun rise every day doesn't prove it will rise tomorrow. People used to think some cause and effect relationships were obvious. Now we know we learn these from experience. Remember when people thought the sun moved around Earth? Probabilistic reasoning deals with chances. It helps us understand unlikely events. For example, a positive medical test for a rare disease might not mean you have the disease. The disease's rarity matters too. In the end, good reasoning uses formal logic, induction, and probability. These tools help us understand the world better. But they also show us the limits of what we can know. Final summary. Think Simon Blackburn's book Think gives us a look into big ideas in philosophy. It covers many important questions about life. These include how we know things, what makes us conscious, and if we have free will. The book talks about famous ideas like Descartes' "I think, therefore I am." This shows we can be sure we exist because we think. It also explains ideas like dualism, which tries to understand how our minds work. The book asks if our actions are really free or if they're already decided. It looks at different views on who we are as people. Some say we're just our experiences, while others think there's more to us. The book also shows why clear thinking is important. It explains two types of reasoning, deductive and inductive. These help us understand the world better. Think helps readers explore big questions about life and knowledge. It makes complex ideas easier to understand. If you're curious about philosophy, this book is a good place to start. It can help you think more deeply about yourself and the world around you.